I'm so happy to introduce Celeste Harrington. She's a global wellness and benefits manager at Microsoft, and she's got a tremendous amount of experience in this area, working globally with different vendors, and really has seen a lot of changes in the workplace along the way. And she is also an entrepreneur herself. So I'm very happy to introduce Celeste. And Celeste, if you could say some words about yourself and also about your role.
Thanks, Zina. I appreciate that. Hello, everyone. I'm Celeste Harrington. As Zina mentioned, I oversee global wellness and benefits at Microsoft, previously Apple, always in a global lens, which is, I think, really exciting to see what's happening in the landscape across the world, specifically for mental health. Previously, I oversaw other wellness benefits, so I have a nice understanding of well-being across the spectrum, from mental and emotional well-being to fitness benefits and outreach and preventive health.
That's amazing. I mean, just what you've just described, really what it says to me, it's the holistic person who's involved in engaging with their health. It can't just be one area alone. So given that, what strategies have you found that have been most effective in implementing these global strategies that really, especially when it comes to mental and emotional well-being, where and with tech companies with diverse cultural backgrounds as well. So when you think about how to integrate the whole person, what have you found to be most effective?
It's such a tricky question. Implementation strategy is one of my favorite phases of work. I love the implementation phase of a project. And I was thinking about this question, and honestly, I think it comes to communication. I don't think you can ever over communicate a benefit. And it's two-way communication. So understanding what employees need is really important. There's nothing like implementing a solution that they don't need or never requested or asked for and thinking that it fits the need. So understanding what your employees are desiring, what they're struggling with, and then finding a solution that fits that, and communicating it over and over and over again beyond the launch phase. People don't seek out a benefit until they need it, typically. And so we want to make sure that any solution that's available to them is continuously served up as their life cycle changes, not only at their career, but also in their personal lives.
So it's really like any other innovation program. It sounds like the voice of the patient, the voice of the customer is really key here. And so to that end, how do you approach vendor management? Because it sounds like it can be extremely complex, but you also, it appears, have to be somewhat precise in what you're going to select and recommend. So how do you, what's your approach?
It's also another great question. It is complex, especially at a global scale. It's interesting, and it's in a really exciting time right now to be a vendor or a supplier and an employer going through an RFP or an RFI process where you're looking for that selection. It's really exciting because a lot of these solutions are becoming more and more tech-enabled. And in the tech space where I'm coming from, that's what we want, right? We want these tech-enabled solutions that have online scheduling. As not innovative as that sounds, it is incredibly innovative to have online scheduling, especially in healthcare. And the ability to Zoom or Teams or have a digital solution for appointments, and whether it's therapy or coaching or medication management, right? That's something that we're continuing to look for in the tech space. And I think you had another lens, part of your question, but understanding that it's not just the US lens, I think that's something that I'm always trying to correct myself and with my peers and colleagues, is that we have to consider everyone else who's investing in the solution with their time, right? Is it something that's going to be accepted in another country, in another culture? Especially because a lot of these solutions are US based. And so it's important that the vendor themselves understands who's going to be accessing this solution.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And some vendors may be more experienced in certain areas versus others. So do you end up in situations where maybe you have several different vendors and not necessarily a global one, depending on the need?
Yeah, it's my least favorite solution to have a patchwork, but sometimes you need that patchwork quilt to make it happen. I think that's kind of where those needs assessments come in. If you're say like the UK, for example, might have a really specific need for return to work for new parents that a US supplier that you already have on your books that isn't able to support. Then in that case, maybe you're looking for a local solution. There are definitely options in local areas globally. I think the bigger the company, the harder it is to manage all of those solutions. But if it's feasible for the company, I mean, go for it, right? I think that's the most important thing. And we talked about this before, Zina, about people want to access their healthcare, especially mental health care and physical health care in their local language, in their local culture. And so if you need a local solution, that might be the best.
So given that and what you just stated in terms of global and local solutions, but at the same time, we're in a very high-paced environment, especially post-COVID here, a very different way of working now as well, going from remote to back to work to hybrid, which has, several different personal situations have emerged on what works best for people while working and engaging, but at the same time being able to live their life well. So have you experienced resistance, skepticism? How do you manage the culture of these situations given this point in time?
Yeah, the environment is so interesting and it's been so dynamic the last 4 years, right? We've all experienced a plethora of things, especially in the workplace. And the expectations have changed so much for the employee, right? Having to do your job, continuing those expectations and do it from anywhere, from your kitchen counter and then back into your office and then back onto your kitchen counter and balancing all these needs. And I think that's where it's important to find a solution that meets the employee where they are, whether it's in their kitchen or at their office, because with all this back and forth, we're finding it's hard for people to get away, right? To go to an office to have an appointment. And so having a really private and confidential experience, whether it's like texting or messaging through a platform so they can access their provider or coach has been really critical. But also understanding burnout. I gave a talk on burnout recently at another conference, and I was really shocked. I think that I have been in the space and a little oversaturated on the topic, and it was people are really feeling it more than ever, and so understanding that we can support folks from wherever they are, I think helps with that. Having that flexibility in their care and benefits is, I think, more useful than we know or understand or beginning to understand.